Hello and welcome to this new live event in the Nordic Crypto Adoption Week, where we have 5 live events, and we are so happy that we are this year having events for all the Nordic countries. We started out on Monday with Sweden. Yesterday we had Denmark. Both of these live events is still available as a recording on YouTube and on the landing page on Kuiper. And today we will have 2 events. We will starting out with Finland, and in a couple of hours we will also have Iceland. And Iceland is then the first time that we will have a live event with them, and where we also have results from the findings. The meat of this, the core value, of course, of this event is the findings that we can see about the trends in the different countries. And K33 has been working in Norway on different kinds of surveys for several years, but last year it was also then done for Sweden and Denmark and Finland, and this year also then for Iceland. We will wrap up the week on Friday with a combined live event with Norway for 1.5 hours, and then continue after a short break, about 5 minutes or so, and then have a different insight and different panels on the Nordic overview. So we learn much about these things as we go along. So then I will add Magnus and Vetle, but also Tia to the stage, because Tia is of course representing the Finland, but she is also then representing the Nordic Blockchain Association. So maybe you should just present yourself and a little about what your engagement is with Nordic Blockchain Association.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Martin. So I've recently joined Nordic Blockchain Association as a board member, and my responsibility really lands on Finland, where I'm originally from. And basically, the purpose really for me is to bridge the gaps between the traditional and the new in Finland, and overall support Nordic Blockchain Association to expand the blockchain as adoption throughout the Nordics. And obviously, we collaborate between the countries, like this report, and we organize a lot of events throughout the region, locally, meetups, roundtable discussions, steering committees, and then we have the main conference in June in Stockholm, 17th and 19th of June, which is our largest conference in the Nordics, and the expectation is around 1,000 to 2,000 people. And of course, we collaborate largely with the financial institutions and also the regulatory landscape to advance different regulatory aspects within the Nordics.
Yes, thank you very much so far then, Tia. And you will come back when we have the panel to discuss the findings, because now we will move to the findings. And as every year, maybe we will have the presenters from Magnus Jones and Vetle Lunde. And we talked about this the other days, that digging into Excel sheets, it was sort of fun, and it's sort of also maybe a Christmas present. But this time, it's nearly New Year's Eve with champagne and all types of exciting results. Is that true?
You're building up the momentum, at least here, Morten, in some matter. But yes, all depending on how you are used to normally celebrate New Year's Eve, or how you see Christmas normally. But for Vetle and me, at least, I think we can say that this is maybe in this week, the New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve together. Yes.
Yeah, we are due to show you guys some just crazy numbers from Finland over the past year. So yeah, it's rockets and firecrackers and everything you can dream of.
Then you can just take it off, guys.
Thank you,
Yep.
Morten.
Thank you. Yeah, so with that tease in the beginning, I guess all of you are eager to see the actual concrete numbers for Finland. This is the second year we do this survey in Finland, so we have numbers to compare it with from last year. And as Morten said, we have been doing this survey in the rest of the Nordics, apart from Iceland last year, and then Norway all the way back to 2018. So we have some good comparisons to look at, and we also have a very reliable relationship with Norstat, who conducts the service on our behalf. So we are excited to show these numbers and get on with the survey for you. And then it makes sense to start with some formality, explaining the panel and Norstat. Norstat is helping us do the survey. They have a representative panel of people from all kinds of classes within the Finnish society, different incomes, various age groups, various regions, and also various genders. So we get the representative panel and a overall good assessment of the current state of opinions in the Finnish society. We do the same across the Nordics, so we get a lot of information on the general population and their crypto exposure, so we get good comparisons for the industry to understand and for local governments to understand, and it's very valuable. And we ask 4 simple questions to the survey respondents. We ask whether or not they own Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies, whether or not they believe they will own cryptocurrencies or NFTs in the future, and then conditioned on whether or not they currently own crypto, we ask them what the current value of their holdings are, and then again, which platforms they use to buy or sell cryptocurrencies. And with that out of the way, it's nice to get on with the data. And Finnish crypto adoption has surged over the past year. We estimate Finnish crypto ownership rates to sit at 11% as of March 2025, up from 6.8% last year. It's a huge increase, very unique increase, but it's understandable given the strong market we have seen over the past year, both from a price perspective in Bitcoin, but also from a legitimization perspective with institutional adoption escalating rapidly last year with the advent of Bitcoin ETFs in the US and several Tier 1 banks launching crypto custody solutions, and also the current sitting US president aiming to launch a strategic Bitcoin reserve and create a favorable but defined regulatory regime in the US. So an increase in adoption rate was expected, but this massive increase was beyond what we had anticipated. And we will show it more in detail later, but we also see that a lot of Finns are expecting to buy in the future, and it is ownership and expected ownership is increasing across most age brackets, but young adults are the most inclined to own crypto. What those 11% translates to in absolute numbers is approximately 525,000 Finns owning cryptocurrencies. Last year, that figure was approximately 300,000 Finns. So in Finland, the amount of crypto holders has increased by 75% in just this year, equating to 225,000 new owners. And with these absolute numbers in mind, and also the broad aggregate Finnish adoption, it's great to drill down into demographics. So Magnus, take it away.
Thank you, Vetle. Yes, we see here also a significant increase in the younger generations of 18 to 29 years, where we have gone from 12% to 24%. And we can see that it's declining the older we get. However, still there are strong numbers in also the age group of 30-39, where we see we've gone from 13 to 21, and also in the age group of 40 to 49, where we've gone from 5% to even 14. So we see that it is not per se only the younger generation who has gone in and driven this one, but it's more or less the whole of the nation who has gone into apparently crypto in some matter. And if we look into the numbers from Sweden that we looked into on Monday, we saw there that the strongest group that was driving this one was actually the age group of 50 to 64 years old, where they had an increase in 225%. So we see that in Sweden, it was in that category 6.5% in total, and we see that 50 to 59 here, and adding up to the 60 plus, it's a little different how the survey is done due to different nations setup, but still we see that Finland is well represented here also in some matter. So we see also, if you compare to Denmark, where we had the age group of 18 to 29 who was the strongest, that's well represented. So Finland shows that compared to Sweden and Denmark, where we saw the significant different age groups that was driving the driving force, we see here that the whole country is sort of going into crypto for this reason. When it comes to diversity and whether or not it's male or females, we see the numbers that we see regardless of where you are in the world. Male are the dominant side of this one. However, looking into here, 18% of all Finns are men who has crypto, while 5% is a woman. The split here in some matter is something that we can discuss further in detail, and like we have mentioned previously, Kauper had a broadcast on this one on the 8th of March during the Women's Day, where we went into this category where we had some great women looking in depth to the different variations and reasons for this one. We also had good discussions the previous days, so I will not go into this one here. We can rather raise it for the panel later, but this is an important topic that we need to raise also and look into in terms of driving further female. So what we can see here is actually on the female side that we have had a strong growth in Finland from 3 to 5%. So that's also something that I would be eager to discuss later with the panel. And if we compare it to Denmark and Sweden that we have looked into this week, we see that both of them are at 3%. So it has surpassed Denmark and Finland and are almost a double compared to it. So that also shows indications towards that the Finland is actually a pretty strong crypto nation in itself and in some other, and also on the male side with 18%. Sweden is at 11, while Denmark is at 17. So again, Finland is actually so far this week leading the landscape here.
And while current Finnish crypto adoption is super strong, nothing suggests that the brakes are going to hit this train anytime soon. As many as 41% of all the respondents in this survey expects to buy crypto within the next decade. Last year, that figure was 24%, illustrating how much sentiment around crypto has improved over the past year and how much more excitement that has been built up in Finland over the past year. As many as 14% of the respondents in the survey expect to buy crypto within the next year, and an additional 14% of the Finnish respondents expect to buy crypto within the next 3 years. This is also very different to numbers seen particularly in Sweden, and it just shows that current Finnish momentum seems to be very strong. The number 41% would translate to approximately 1.85 million Finnish crypto owners by 2035, which is a very solid number. And if you look at that chart on the bottom left and translate it into a distinction between current holders and non-crypto holders, you get this chart. The chart shows the split between current crypto holders and current non-crypto holders, and whether or not when they expect to buy in the future. In Finland, we were very surprised to see that even in the next year, current non-owners of crypto are the majority of those who expect to buy in the future. As many as 8% of the respondents who currently do not own crypto expect to buy crypto within the next year. And an additional 11% is anticipating crypto purchases within the next 3 years. So of those non-crypto holders, the Finnish crypto adoption could increase by 19% only in the next 3 years. So it shows that current demand in Finland and current expectations of buying crypto is remarkably high. And if we drill down into demographics on these numbers, we see that the propensity of people looking to buy crypto within the next 10 years is high across most age brackets, and it has surged compared to last year in all age brackets. A majority of the respondents in this survey, aged 60 or younger, believe they will own crypto in the next decade, with a staggering 55% of the respondents younger than 59 stating that they expect to buy crypto within the next 10 years. And 64% within the 18 to 29-year-old bracket expects to buy crypto in the next 10 years. And you can see it's a slight decline in crypto exposure expectations as you move on with the age brackets, which is what one would expect, because typically younger people are more inclined to buy and own crypto, but it's still remarkably high across all age brackets. And to compare that 55.5% figure to what we had last year, that number came in at 31%. So it's just been a massive improvement in both current crypto ownership in Finland and also expected crypto ownership in the years to come. And with that out of the way, it would be interesting to see how the current landscape and where people currently trade in Finland. The market has proven to have remarkable demand and remarkable growth expectations in the year to come.
Indeed. And we see in general here that the local presence is strong naturally, with CoinMotion of 34%. And this is a multiple choice question. So it means you don't necessarily purchase and trade your cryptos at just one place. So you can have several answers. And that is what the reason for why it doesn't add up to 100. But however, CoinMotion has actually increased from 31% last year to 34%. And we see then in this kind of setting that the local exchanges are doing good. But I think we can also look into it in the way of saying that Finland is actually pretty crypto native per se. Because if you look into also the other DeFi international exchanges there, we see that that is also significantly higher than in the other regions that we have looked into of Sweden and Denmark. So it might be also here an indication towards that we've seen, for example, a decrease in Binance internationally, going last year from 33% to now 17%. So it might be an indication that the Finns are even more crypto native, going into more decentralized finance, purchasing, trading, selling mechanism platforms. And it might be also the indication that we see the opposite here of others. If you look into the last categories of the ETP, the ETFs, the exchange traded funds, where you actually are purchasing, call it an ordinary stock share that is represented by an underlying crypto, which is at 8% this year, while it was at 11% last year. So that has been a decline. But if you look into the other Nordic countries that we have looked into so far of Sweden and Denmark, we see that in Sweden, it was, for example, 33% that was into ETP ETFs, and in Denmark, it was 14. So it seems maybe here that the Finns, again, that we have looked into the numbers, are maybe even more, call it crypto native in the way that they are actually dealing with their assets in general. And just to mention also that on the local presence, North Crypto, for example, has gone from 4% last year to 15% this year, and also Kvarn has had a great increase here in some matter. So it would be interesting also now going over to the panel to hear more about that from the experts and the representatives from the industry here in general, as it seems like market shares also has been taken from some of the largest parties like Coinbase and Binance. And maybe the Binance case can also be explained that they have gone from 33 to 17 due to the incidents that was connected to Binance globally last year, where the US side addressed them and they were convicted in some matter. And the findings in general is strong here compared to also the others of Sweden and Denmark in itself. But one thing is to look into sort of saying, where do you trade your crypto assets? Another is, of course, how much do you actually have of a value? Because the mantra normally has been maybe that if you rent the crypto, you're always loaded up and you have a great wealth. But we see the same tendency here as in other Nordic countries, that the majority has a relatively small amount of crypto in itself. If you look into the values of less than 1,000 euros, we see that there's 57% of all Finnish crypto owners that has a value less than 1,000 euro. If we add up to even 5,000, there's even 24% more. So there's a pretty high number that we see the same pattern towards in Sweden and Denmark. However, going back again to Finland as the crypto nation, as we have apparently seen here in this survey, if you look into the last column there of above 50,000 euros, that you have above 50,000 euros in value in cryptos, we see that Finland is at 5%. Sweden there, compared to that, was at 1.17%, while Denmark was at 2%. This is also a strong indication maybe towards what we just commented on, that Finns apparently are more crypto native and are actually generating maybe even higher values in itself. And if you look into these one, it would be also interesting to look further into actually how large of values that Finns estimately have on this area, Vetle.
Yes, based on these percentages and the ownership, estimated ownership of Finnish crypto holders, we can do another estimate of the combined crypto wealth within the Finnish crypto economy. We are following here a similar approach to the one done by Norges Bank in their Norwegian crypto survey last year, where they look at various wealth brackets or crypto holding brackets and the number of people within that bracket, and multiply the median value within that bracket with the number of holders. So, for example, in the bracket with 100 to 1,000 euro holders, we see that there are 177,000 crypto holders approximately. We multiply 177,000 with the median value of the two values there, so by 550 euros, which gives us a combined crypto wealth within that cohort of 0.1 billion euros. And as you can see, we have a very fat tail in this distribution due to the 5% of crypto owners indicating that they own crypto for more than 50,000 euros. So it's a distribution of crypto wealth here that's like very striking once you move up in the various layers. And if you combine all of these figures within the wealth brackets, you get to a Finnish crypto wealth estimate of 4.1 billion euro. This is, of course, a very simple back of the envelope way of estimating crypto wealth, but it will provide a good comparison for the various Nordic countries in the days to come, and can also be useful information when looking at issues such as tax reporting, or and have a reference number when you contrast actual tax reported values to estimated values, because our base expectation is that most big holders tend to report taxes, at least in Norway, whereas a lot of the smaller holders, the ones holding crypto for less than 1,000 euros, aren't necessarily even aware that they need to report taxes. So by doing this calculation, we can sort of highlight that this is a phenomenon that could be an important perspective for the tax season. And then revisiting all those massive numbers we have seen today, I can see that it's an error in the key finding page here, because Finnish crypto ownership was 11%, not 10% this year, with 525,000 crypto owners. It is still a big gender gap, but Finland is doing relatively greater than Sweden and Denmark. It's a massive amount of the Finnish population who expects to buy crypto by 2035, with as many as 41% expecting to do so. And the Finnish crypto wealth comes in at a solid 4.1 billion, the highest number recorded so far, with Sweden and Denmark done and dusted. So that's it for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Vetle and Magnus. And I will just add a couple of questions, and maybe we should take one from the community, because we have a question related probably to the slides before this one, where Care asked about how do you calculate the average for the last column, given that there's no upper value. I think
We do.
Yeah,
we do in Norstat. We have several categories after that, so we have the average value between 50,000 and 100,000 euros, 100,000 euros and 500,000 euros, and then above above 500,000 euros. So we have some percentage points there, but in order for the chart to be readable, we make it readable, and with by combining all of those values, and with anyone indicating that they own crypto for 500,000 or more, we use 500,000 euros as the reference price, because there are no other average values. So you could have like massive outliers of one Finn owning crypto for 1 billion euros, which would not be represented in this survey, but we need to like make the estimates through a clean process, and one process that makes sense, so we can end up on at least a reasonable figure. So that's the gist of it, and how we estimate those numbers.
But it's
Okay.
a good question, and I could just add to it that Mr. Finlo Bates is one of the true crypto native persons in Finland that I could highly recommend to actually follow on LinkedIn, and is also one that truly represents some of, call it, the findings that we have seen here in Finland of the great initiatives that is surrounded in Finland in Sommer.
Okay, I will also add a couple of questions, and maybe I should change my jubilant expression in the introduction and be more of a journalist. Do you have any type of explanation of these results? Of course, we will also ask the panel about this, but and you used the phrase crypto native, that the Finns are crypto native. How is this? Magnus? Or Vetle?
Yeah, so as I started off the survey, it's no surprise that numbers have exploded higher given the general positive tailwinds for the industry over the past year. It is also reflected in survey data in Denmark and potentially also some other Nordic countries. We will get back to that later. But it follows the trends we have seen broadly. And while it's positive to see the growth, we still want to stress that you can see within the crypto wealth estimates and also like the portions of how much crypto people tend to hold, that a lot of like the ownership in crypto right now is relatively small amounts. So it seems like people are more willing to test and get involved in the crypto market, but it's not like massive investments from each and every one. So it's more showcasing an open-mindedness and interest in crypto. And then in terms of crypto native Finns, it might have several natural explanations. The Finns have a very cool and proud crypto history with local bitcoins emerging from Finland. It has a very like tech-savvy background from a crypto perspective in that regard, and have very solid local national spot exchanges. So people are already used to buying and selling crypto in spot markets rather than ETPs and ETFs, such as in Sweden. So like generally, Finnish crypto users are more exposed to that part of the crypto market than maybe Swedes and Danes are. So that might be one of the explanations.
Do you have anything to add, Magnus?
I copy what Vetle says there, and also what I see from being, call it, hands-on in the market also, where I previously was with EY Ernst & Young, where I was their Nordic blockchain and innovation lead for close to 10 years. So I was also covering hands-on the markets in all of the Nordic countries. And what I've been seeing in Finland in general is that you do not necessarily see it on, call it, the top floor outside of events or meetups or whatever that is going on there. It's not that easy to point out that one, but I see it from the previous colleagues that I've hired in, that I work together with, and also the ones that I know, that if you just start looking down, call it, in the basements in Finland, there's lots of great and smart people within this industry that is clearly doing lots of exciting stuff. And this goes from everything from, call it, DeFi builders, of whether or not that's connected to DEX projects, decentralized exchanges, or other DeFi platforms, to on the other side, on the TradFi banking side, more or less. So it's a good widespread there, I would say, in terms of the competence. And also, if you just look in people like you who asked the question here, we see that there's lots of great knowledge, even on the government side that I also work lots on, in terms of the authorities, on the clustering, the tracing side there, Like for example, right now I'm sitting at the Schiphol airport on my way to a crypto meeting with Interpol. So I can also confirm from that side of how far ahead their Finnish governments in general are on the side, but this is also elements that you don't hear publicly. So I think seeing these numbers actually reflects what I have been picking up in the market from, call it the backside, that you don't necessarily read about or see in the media in general.
Just one more question before we go to the panel, and that is about what the Finnish people think about the future, whether they want to invest or not. And of course, when you're asking a question about what will you do in 10 years, that can be theoretically or not that serious necessarily, but you have quite hard figures also on the first year and also on the first 3 years. Vetle, could you comment on that? So can we trust these numbers?
Like the indications of that survey might be impacted by some news story running that week in Finland, or maybe some like very recent perceptions. So it might have a bias on. It's not as hard of a fact as if whether or not you own cryptocurrencies. It's an opinion that could change. We saw it go from 24% to 41% in the last year. So it's a more like volatile figure in nature than actual ownership. But given that so many people have indicated that they intend to buy in the near future, is more of an indication that a lot of people have considered and thought more clearly about it already. If you respond 10 years, then it's as you say, it's more of like a futuristic scenario. Do you think maybe crypto will have some relevancy within the next 10 years? Okay, maybe it will, and then maybe I will own it, or like maybe you have that perspective. But at least 1 to 3 years is more of a mental commitment. So it's a very solid observation that it's like the distribution is the heaviest in the first couple of years.
Can also add to that, Morten, that what we looked into yesterday in Denmark, for example, that there it has been lots of noise connecting to tax positions and crypto, for example. The same noise has not been in Finland. Just one example. There has been more, call it political uncertainty also from the Swedish side, from the Swedish government, who has been even more actively on issuing warnings that doesn't come from someplace or whatever, but they spread what we call the FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt in the markets in general. So it might be also correlated towards that what we saw before, just before Christmas, where we had the so-called bull market, where Bitcoin was rising and also other cryptos were following, that maybe the Finns draw through that momentum even more clearer and stronger than what was happening in Denmark, due to the uncertainty connected to just tax positions also. So that might be some of the explanations, but it will be interesting now to also hear further with the local experts in Finland and hear their views on this one.
Thank you so far then, Magnus and Vetle, and we will then remove you for some 10 minutes from the stage, and we have some questions from the feed on LinkedIn events. Will these presentations be available, for instance? And that they will be, and in the end of the week, where we also will include the Nordic results, and one place at least to get hold of these presentations will be on Kuiper, where there is a landing page. But both Nordic Blockchain Association and Magnus and myself, we are also sharing quite a lot on social. And there are also some interesting questions in the comment section, so we will get back to that. But we will first then introduce the other guests or panelists. So just let me get them on board. Jonas, I hope, yeah, you are with us. That's good. And let's first just hear a little about who you are and what you are representing and what you are working on. So, Tia, you talked about the Nordic blockchain. association link, but you also have another life. So maybe have something about you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, indeed. So my background is actually in events and commercial sales functions. So I used to be the Chief Commercial Officer for Paris Blockchain Week, heading up the partnerships and sponsorships globally. And now I'm actually, since leaving Paris Blockchain Week, focusing on commercial strategy and operational strategy, helping Web3 startups and scale-ups in kind of diving deeper into those aspects. I've seen firsthand that there is a need for this focus, as a lot of the projects start from the technology. Once raised funds, we go into the aspect of how do we make the money back and actually scale up the company. So I'm really focused on that. So wearing many hats.
Okay, let's go further to Juha.
Hey, thanks, Martin, and thanks for inviting me here. It's good to be here, and really, I have to say, surprising results from the survey. I'm a little bit excited already. So my name is Juha Viitala, and I'm a founder and the CEO of Membrane Finance, which was recently acquired by Paxos. It's a US company known for its institutional grade stablecoins like PayPal USD and some other assets. I've been in a crypto space working for almost a decade now, looking for different corners from enterprise blockchains to deep, like a protocol level blockchain projects. And for the past 3.5 years, we've been building stablecoins, mainly Euro, which was the first regulated Euro stablecoin in under EU regime, and we got a license for it like 3 years ago almost. Time flies, but it's been a great journey to see how the stablecoins are emerging, and as they say, it's a kind of a killer app for the crypto.
We will get back to that as one of the topics that we will dig into later. Yeah. Jonas, maybe we can hear about your background and what you're doing.
Yes, thanks for the invite, and pleasure to be here sharing the good and great news about the Finnish adoption. So my name is Jonas Järvinen. I'm one of the co-founders of Quan, and we are one of the crypto service providers here in Finland, offering trading, brokerage, custody, and staking services. And my personal background, I've been in the sector for 7 years almost now, so professionally. So seeing a lot of the cycles come and go, and the development from the ICO days back up to until this day, and of course a lot of the regulatory side we've been living through as well. So we do have a registration as a WASP within Quan, and then we also are now extending to MiFID II services, meaning that we can extend to the financial instrument categorized products and services. So that is something new, of course, apart from the MiCA, which is now hot topic in the industry among all players in the Europe. So that's basically my background and the company. Pleasure to be here.
And then Thomas.
Yes, thank you very much for the invite. So my name is Thomas Brand, and I have worked with the financial services industry in different roles for the past 15 years, from business development to management consulting. And I currently work as the institutional sales and research lead with the biggest Finnish, currently of course WASP, but also we have as Kvarn the process ongoing regarding the CASP licensing. And in my role, I primarily serve the Finnish local institutional and professional investors when they're looking at the asset class, not so much from the technology side, but especially from the investment perspective.
Okay, and then we can try to get some feedback from you regarding the findings. And maybe we should continue with you, Thomas, even if you are working more on the institutional side. You got some results also here on the retail side, and that is the focus on the survey, of course. What is your sense?
I think that the figures in themselves are quite remarkable, especially the growth of the supposed crypto owners, and especially like looking at the current situation in Finland in terms of household net worth, and especially the level of household wealth in general. So the total wealth in Finland is somewhere approximately like 850 to 900 billion euros. And of course, from this perspective, it is still well below 1% that is supposed that the people own. But I think that there is a lot of reporting issues, and especially the level of interest towards the crypto and digital assets in general has increased, especially after last year when the ETFs in US were approved, and also throughout the last parts of last year. But in general, I think that Finns in general tend to be perceived as extremely conservative. So it is super like exciting that at least like the retail side is picking up, and that the retail is driving the adoption in the big picture of things.
Maybe we can continue with you, Jonas, and even introduce a question from the chat here, because Dr. Venkata Marella, he asked, is this because of the Trump factor?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think if we compare the last year's results, where myself and Thomas were kind of sharing those as well, I think what happened was, of course, last year was the first Bitcoin ETF momentum, which lasted, the first quarter and a little bit the second quarter. But of course, we saw a major influx of new users coming during the last quarter after the Trump administration was confirmed. So there was definitely a Trump factor involved as well. And I think overall, we usually see those spillovers coming from the US. And now that they have taken the lead, of course, a lot of these developments coming from the West to the Nordics eventually as well. So definitely there was a Trump factor involved in that as well. And of course, we are looking quite positively on the future, because those measures that they have taken to move 180 degrees from very negative stance to positive stance and proactive innovation towards cryptos, those will eventually affect the adaptation and the user behavior in the Europe and in the Nordics as well.
But still, are you surprised about the results? And you have said that you have been both in the bear and bull markets during the years. So what is happening right now in your view? Yeah,
I think it's the number of users. I think the growth was a little bit higher than we anticipated, even though we have seen the momentum there. But I would say it's quite remarkable, as Thomas said, because now if you compare to the traditional net worth that the clients have, it's below 1%, but still the number of people owning those cryptos, it's quite significant already, even though small amounts there. So if you think about the total savers and investors in Finland, it's roughly around 1.9 million. So we are almost above a 1 quarter already with that adaptation. So it's getting a more kind of a standard piece of a allocation to some extent. And of course, that's the first thing to do a small allocation and then grow from there. But I think the signs are very positive.
What do you think then, Juha? What is driving these trends?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say I have a little bit like a mixed emotions, because I think at least how I see it, that we have a little bit like a negative sentiment in general towards crypto in Finland. There are a lot of like official tones talking about all the negative sides, and media is always highlighting the negative impact and all the negative things. But I'm super excited to see that there's especially younger generation is driving the adoption, and I think it's cryptos are becoming a kind of a significant asset class in Finland. I was just looking for some statistics about the OS, the osakesäästötili, which is like an equity saving account. It's a fairly new investment product in Finland. And there we have around 400,000 accounts open currently, and the total wealth under equity saving accounts was somewhere around 2.5 billion euros. So it was. I was really surprised that the crypto AUM is larger than what people are investing in the stocks. So it's just a nuance from the statistics, but it's kind of highlighting that these kind of new investment vehicles are emerging and picking up the trend. And of course, I have to say, like, the Trump effect was real, and it was kind of highlighting the past 6 months where we've been seeing like thousands of different meme coins, which are mainly been driving the retail adoption and picking up a lot of new entrants to crypto market. You can say whatever you like about the meme coins, but I think it's a kind of a good marketing for crypto and bringing new people in the space.
Even if
and then there's one funny fact that there's a really like a strong crypto opposition in Finland as well. Like 50% of the people from surveys said like they will never buy crypto. I find it a little bit funny.
Okay, so now we then have two types of surveys that maybe collide, and we will see what will happen in the next years. What is your sense, Tia, regarding the findings and in the survey?
Yeah, well, they were surprising, I think. So I join with what has been said already. I feel that there is a gap between the traditional and blockchain, crypto, Web3 industry in general in Finland. And kind of looking this from a global perspective, because that's where I've operated mostly. If I think of the financial institutions, banks 4 years ago, a lot of them were working on the background, having conversations, attending events, discussing, etc., but really didn't want to take a official stance publicly, but wanted to be present. And I feel that in Finland, we're a little bit in that situation where publicly we're not saying it. Traditional financial institutions, banks, regulators, they're not so openly talking about the potential, but rather the risks of it. And that's something that clearly, for me, at least based on this research, needs to change. 10% of Finnish people own cryptos. Growth potential is 41% within the next decade. So obviously we need to get everybody on board and collaborate more on that front. And obviously as a woman, I'm very excited for that 5% because let's see how the remaining countries, how their percentage is, but it is imperative that we get more women on the industry. And it goes down to the overall collaboration as well with the public sector and the corporations. So the discussion always needs to include everybody, and I think that's where Finland at the moment is. That we need to get everybody on the same table in same events, discussing, building together towards a solid, strong future.
There's one question from the comment feed that I have saved, and that is from Marco Basili. Asked, name the world's happiest country for the 8th year in a row. Also Finland, 75% increase in crypto holders. Is there a coincidence or anyone?
I had it in my notes. Like, is it a coincidence that we are like a happiest nation and crypto leaders in the crypto adoption? And I think we've been seeing kind of a bull market during the past six months at least, and people tend to be fairly happy during the bull market. So I don't know if it's like is it correlated with the results, but
anyone else?
I think Marco cracked the code That's the reason.
Okay, next year then maybe we'll have to ask people whether they're happy or not, and then try to correlate it. What about the adoption? You were mentioning it, Tia, about this view, or not only on the politician side but also on regular banks. In Norway, there are some signs. I don't want to make too large headlines about it, but there's, for instance, one regular saving apps that is trying to find out whether they should offer crypto through their saving apps together with stocks and funds. There are a bank that has been onboarded as a client by K33. There are even also DNB that is looking into maybe creating a crypto fund. So the overall question is, can we see any type of merger or migration or interrelationship between banks, fintech, and the crypto industry? Maybe from your view and your position, Thomas, do you have any insights or thoughts about that?
I think that's a great question, Morten, and especially from the larger like Nordic perspective. Like, of course, like these kind of neobanks and these kind of banking apps, they have been the first ones to integrate new products and new services to their offering. And especially what I think, and I still hold what I said last year, that most of the exposure to crypto assets will happen indirectly. So in the future, most of the people that hold crypto, they don't actually like hold it directly all through the exchanges or brokerages, that they hold it through funds or some kind of structured products like ETFs or ETPs. There will be a group of users that want to have their own self-custody and things like that. But mostly this will be a kind of a phase that ultimately also the banks will need, and they need to adopt. They adopt it, or they will like go to the irrelevance in this kind of a product range. That of course, like it will take time. Like I think that the biggest news a couple of weeks ago was the biggest Spanish bank, the BBVA, like launching their own ETH and also Bitcoin offering. And that will also happen in the Nordics. Now BlackRock will have their own ETP with the 15 basis points up and running. So I think that it will ultimately happen that the banks need to integrate and they need to accept the fact that the landscape has already changed.
But the number so far doesn't sort of support it, because I think it was 6 or 7% on ETPs, and in Sweden it was 33%. But you still think that going forward that will happen?
Yeah, there are like multiple reasons for that, and of course, like when, for example, tax reporting requirements with the DAC 8 that will be integrated as part of the reporting regime in a couple of years, those will improve the situation with the spot traders and also those that trade with futures. But especially in the future, that it is the same thing as it's with stock picking, that there is a group of people that love to have the possibility to pick stocks, but then there are also those people that appreciate the ease of use, reporting, reliable custody from a good brand and things like that. So it will ultimately happen that most of the people that are the newcomers will come in an indirect way, not owning the spot per se.
What about you, Jonas and Kvarn? Because I understand that you define yourself as a broker, not an exchange. You have to confirm that. But so your service could even be embedded in the bank offerings to their clients in the future, or are you thinking about that type of services?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I agree on Thomas on the analysis and where we are with the adaptation among the financial institutions. So you have seen that quite strong adaptation in of course in the US. Most of the, I would say, online brokers already offer crypto, so it's integrated already there in their applications and vice versa. Also, if you think about the Western Europe, the big fintech apps like Revolut, N26, these guys, they are already offering cryptos, already eToros, but we are struggling here in the Nordics. Usually we are 2 to 3 years behind in all of the financial innovation, right? So I think the wave will come, and now, of course, as I said, the US will lead a lot of that, at least the mentality, how to approach cryptos and so on. So I think the pressure will eventually come to actually all the financial institutions and wealth managers and online brokers and banks as well to adopt those services, but we are not yet there. Of course, the other driver would be the regulation, and now that we got the MiCA regulation up and running, I think that has been one of the problems in the past, because without the harmonized regulation, without the compliance mentality and the risk averse when it comes to the compliance, especially in the new initiatives, I think that needs to be cleared out, and now we have the leeway to actually start exploring that by the financial institutions. But it will take potentially some time, and it can happen in multiple ways, like indirect ownership through the ETPs, funds, and the crypto-related stocks as well, which is quite popular now, coming from the micro strategies of the world and so on. But I think then, of course, if you think about the financial institutions, I don't think that they have the resources to actually offer those services in-house anytime in the future, because there are no resources or available resources in the industry. So they need to usually partner up first or buy someone out in order to offer those services. And I think that's a natural development there. If you compare to the Switzerland, most of even the cantonal banks are offering Bitcoin brokerage already, and that has been done with the collaboration with the local Swiss crypto banks and brokerages out there. But I think similar kind of development can be foreseen in the Nordics and in Finland as well. But it will take still some time to get to that phase of the development.
There's another area where you could say that TradFi or classical finance is meeting crypto, and that is related to stablecoins. And you of course said that maybe this is the killer app, or people have said that. But we can't see stablecoins that much in the end user stats, if you understand, because it will be more in between the different payment rails, as I understand it. What is the status right now regarding stablecoins, both in the crypto industry and also does it influence also the classical finance industry?
Oh yeah, that's a good question, and there's a crazy things happening, and I think that 25 is kind of a really like a breakout for stablecoins. Starting with, of course, in Europe, what Jonas mentioned, like we have the regulation in place. MiCA regulation started affecting the market for the stablecoin issuers last June, and now it's expanding to cover the crypto brokerages and so on. So it's been kind of a mandatory for Europe to start adapting stablecoins or any kind of financial services around crypto, because for a lot of the banks and the institutions, it was really difficult to interact with any cryptos before the regulation. But now we can see that there's kind of unified European market due to MiCA is in place, and I think it's attracting a lot of new entrants in the market, and like the traditional players from banks to asset managers and institutions. And stablecoin circulation has almost doubled during the last year. Now it's somewhere a bit over 200 billion, and it's mainly dominated by the USD based currencies. And what we see now is like there's almost every day there's some like a remarkable party announcing that they are releasing their own stablecoin. Fidelity, which is probably the third largest asset manager in the world, they announced yesterday that they are launching their own stablecoin. Trump family announced that they are launching their own stablecoin via the World Liberty. They're like a crypto project, a lot of the banks are issuing their own stablecoins. A lot of the fintechs, a lot of the neo banks. PayPal kind of opened the floodgates 3 years ago when they released their PayPal USD, and then a lot of the fintechs and neo banks started to wondering, okay, we can streamline our payments and internal money flows with the stable coins. So I think for a while we're gonna see kind of a chaotic phase where we have 100 different stable coins in the market, and but gradually I think it has to start consolidating, and then we can see like a true winners who gonna win the game, and how we solve kind of interoperability problems. And for the end users, I think in the future I don't want to have like a multiple different stable coins. It's gonna be fungible with the current euros and like a fiat USDs, and it's kind of a remarkable transition from for a lot of the banks and institutions that they are suddenly having kind of a payment rails that are working globally in the speed of time, and like instant transactions, and with the low cost. So it's going to be interesting time for the stablecoins.
I will quite soon get Magnus and Vetle back into the stage, but one question for Tia, because I've been working on communication and on events, and based on these results and comments on some of you, it seems like there are a large group growing to have more confidence in crypto, and there are a large group in Finland that are also highly critical and maybe even supported by media. And all these events in the industry, are we just talking to each other? Should we talk more to the people outside of the space?
Yes, we should. Simple answer to that question. I think one of the challenges in this industry is that it's complex. I think we can all admit that it's quite complex. And when we're talking about mass adoption of blockchain and crypto, first of all, I feel that a lot of the people don't even understand the difference what blockchain and crypto are. Like, they're not the same thing. And bridging that gap, it's the educational need for our industry is massive outside from the industry. And oftentimes what I see globally in events and when people talking about these matters, it gets too complex for a common Jane Doe to understand what we are talking about. We use a lot of acronyms. We talk about things as everybody would know it, and of course we know it, but really kind of driving that mass adoption of things, there is a need to really bringing the people from outside and simplifying things globally, and in discussions, because the industry also changes a lot. When SEC was targeting the exchanges in US, we saw an influx of companies from there to European market wanting to change their headquarters from US to European market. When MiCA started coming, we saw an influx of European-based companies, all those same companies that just transferred from US going to Middle East and Asia. And the stability of that, and how the industry kind of overall functions from outside perspective, it's not easy to create trust in that framework. So I'm really personally hoping that MiCA brings stability to this industry in Europe, and also brings more investments globally within the blockchain and crypto Web3 in general, and also new users, new people interested in investing into it, which we've now seen in Finland, which is absolutely amazing.
Okay, then we will add Magnus and Vetle to the stage again. And based on what you have heard from the local thought leaders in Finland, what do you want to highlight or add, for instance, Magnus?
No, I think it's been well, call it, summarized by the panel and also from their deep insights of being key players in the ecosystem. So of course, even though like it was highlighted that we see indications towards it, like Tia said here, there's still, call it, a way to go, but we see a change in the momentum, and this is something that we don't only see in Finland in general, but we see that there's such a great momentum from traditional finance in general. If you just look into key players like Visa, MasterCard, how they are looking into this one, how they are using stable coins also for settlement purposes, how MasterCard, for example, announced that they used 30% of their internal transactions was tokenized just last year. So I think we will see momentum in this industry that is happening, call it even more on the back end side, that we don't necessarily read about per se in the media or see clearly, that we will run down to the local store and buy a float with paying it with Bitcoin, but it's also from the infrastructure perspective. So I think the totality of this one sums up very well of what we have seen in the other jurisdiction, that there's a moment that is there, but we see maybe a even clearer shift here in terms of, call it, the overall maturity in Finland that has been greater in some areas than compared to the other Nordic regions.
What about you, Vetle?
I thought it was a super interesting panel and very, very good discussions on the financial institutions side as well. I must say I agree with Thomas's take that in all likelihood, like a majority of the invested value is going to go through indirect vehicles. It's simpler from a regulatory perspective, and also like simpler to get everything within the same kind of investment structure for any fund or pension funds seeking to invest and diversify via crypto. And then in terms of like banks in the Nordics lagging, I think we're in this regime change now and in the coming years, where you see 23 banks by September last year in Europe launching various crypto custody solutions. What Jonas mentioned about partnerships seems also very relevant, because out of those 23, only 2 custody solutions were built in-house. So 21 solutions was based on partnerships with existing crypto custodians. So that also indicates that something similar would happen in the Nordics. And then like banks and financial institutions are rational economic beings seeking to maximize revenues. If you just look at the AUM on the ETPs or ETFs in the US right now, just from AUM and management fees, these products are set to earn 500 million in revenue alone in 2025. And trading volumes and fees will also generate excess revenues. And for any bank that cares about future revenues, moving into an asset class that people evidently care about from our surveys and also from just general trading activity is something that's just bound to happen. And I think in terms of the public discourse and like media articles tending to be negative, I think that's partly due to the fact that, yes, a lot of people are negative to crypto, but also a lot of the people who are positively inclined to crypto also clicks on those articles, and like it's a click-based motivation behind writing those articles. The most important thing would rather be to focus on current adoption and expected adoption ahead, and show this to politicians and people in charge of the regulatory landscape, to basically illustrate that this is a phenomenon that has come to stay and it's going to remain relevant, and people care about it and want to invest in it. So let's move the discussion a bit further beyond what it currently is.
Let us then use the last part of this live event to share some thoughts about the future. What do you guys think about the adoption going forward in Finland, and what can be the main drivers? What are the keys? Jonas, could you start?
Yes, very good comments, and I would like to just point out one thing which is interesting. Once you compare these statistics, especially on the younger generation, it's quite striking that actually a lot of the new investors turning to 18 and beyond, they will actually most likely on board with directly with cryptos than traditional savings and investments. So there is quite significant behavior change when it comes to the generational younger generations when it comes to investing. So now if you compare to the traditional savings like stocks, direct ownership of stocks and funds, it's 9%. And among the younger population in this study, it's already shows that it's 1/4 of the younger population. So that is quite striking, because then if you want to attract and serve the younger investors and younger generations, you actually need to have the cryptos somehow integrated to your services in order to kind of just kind of a response to that demand, right, which is coming from that. So that has been quite, and of course that's internationally the similar pattern as well. In the US, we have seen research that among the younger population, the cryptos are already a significant allocation of their traditional portfolios. So it's quite it's quite, I would say, under discussed in Finland as well, because we haven't seen those kind of a behavior changes or in the discussion. So I think it has been under hood a little bit. And if you think about the what is the reason for that, of course, is that younger generation need to be more cautious how they invest. They need to accumulate their wealth over time. They have uncertainty regarding their pension savings and future of wealth accumulation. So they need to actually take more risks. And that's the driver to actually go into the alternative investments and increase the allocation in cryptos, because you need to basically do a double-digit returns only to just reserve your wealth or keep your wealth with the money debasement and of course the consumer-based inflation. So it's quite you need to be quite not risk averse, and of course it ends up in a quite polarized or binary allocations what you need to have there in order to just accumulate your wealth in the future. So the portfolio allocation is totally different for the younger generations.
What do you think then, Thomas, going forward?
I think that Jonas, as we Finns said, like tyhjensi pajatson, so there isn't so much to add from this kind of like perspective. But in general, I want to like highlight also that that from this kind of public awareness perspective, that especially like when we are looking more at the younger professionals that are currently graduating. And I have also had the delight to advise and also to help out with multiple theses that are related to crypto or crypto valuation or also to energy markets, is that most of those students are much more aware of the peculiarities of crypto assets and digital assets combined with this kind of traditional financial background. And it is quite remarkable that their lecturers or their guest visitors that they have lecturing that have, for example, 30 years of experience with the traditional markets, they actually don't know like basically anything about the sector. And I also want to highlight that, especially also from our perspective as CoinMotion, that most of the clients that find crypto assets tend to be quite young. And as also Jonas pointed out, that also creates a kind of a need for us to educate our new clients and new users about the unique risks and the unique possibilities of the crypto assets in general. And what also Jonas highlighted about the portfolio allocation, like more from this kind of professional perspective, like how the professional allocators think, is that alternative investments are anything else except crypto. So crypto still isn't there in the alternative basket where it should be. Like most of the Finnish like wealth has concentrated in the big picture of things, especially from the retail side and also from the institutional side to real estate. So now it has turned out that it is quite risky. It's illiquid. You cannot turn it to liquid asset via alchemy, and also that it's unmovable. So if, for example, you want to move like inside the country or to some other country, you need to sell the asset most likely. And crypto assets from that kind of like quite practical perspective can also provide both like retail clients and especially also the professional clients, that kind of risk and return profile that they're looking at. And then it's mostly about the position sizing. But I personally also see that, especially in Finland, we tend to be quite like pragmatic, but at the same time quite conservative. So it will take time, especially for the things that Tia pointed out, that this kind of integration will take place. And I also want to highlight one very like important thing that Jonas also like touched on, is the negative attitude inside the traditional financial industry. That, for example, when the new graduates come to the job market and they want to go to this asset class, or they want to build new blockchain applications or things like that, and if the only message that you get from the public media or from the general attitude is that this is everything is bad, then I think that those people won't go to the traditional industries back. So that can also change, like create this kind of talent polarization that wouldn't be needed, but it will be created mostly because of the like incumbent industries not understanding that it is already here and it's not going away.
What you're saying is another example that we could continue to talk many hours on these topics, because one is, for instance, tokenization of real world assets like real estate. But we don't have the time to do all the interesting topics. But if you are looking ahead next year or next couple of years, what do you think will drive the adoption further in Finland?
Yeah, I'd like to go a bit further, because I think, as we already discussed, like a lot of the banks are entering the game. They are starting to offer crypto services for their clients, and I think that's going to be the kind of a main point, like access point for normal people to crypto. If you can go to your Nordea bank and you can, beside of your accounts, you can buy either stocks or you can buy some crypto assets. But if you look a little bit in the longer run, as you Morten mentioned about the kind of tokenization of real world assets, or there's kind of a common mantra in the digital asset space that all the asset class will be tokenized. It will take some time, but it seems to be kind of a winning formula for broadening the market, bringing new investment products into market. So I think in 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a large variety of different investment products, from tokenized real estate to tokenized commodities or unlisted stocks or whatever. So we have that will attract more people to invest their money to a new kind of a portfolio of investment products. So I think it's going to be a longer trend, but it's going to be a leading trend, and that's I'm at least like speculating where we are going.
What do you think, Tia?
I agree with everything that has been said. Great comments. Perhaps a little bit on the crypto side, and then other things as well. For crypto, at the moment, it's largely, in my opinion, seen as money, as fiat. Similar thing, but not quite, by the public industry. So the potential, what Juha mentioned on crypto side, what can be tokenized, how can crypto be used, and what are the real world cases for crypto. And the blockchain technology in itself as well is something that enhances the view of how the world can be outside of the traditional financial institutions and industry. And then also for the decentralized AI, this is something that I see quite a bit in various different events that I'm collaborating with at the moment as a topic coming in. The unity of AI and blockchain. How can we human proof in the future what is real, what is not, and also then tokenize our, for instance, identity to some extent could be possible, and how the information is used and expanded from what now is with the help of AI, and where the focus with AI goes in collaboration with blockchain.
And what about you then, Magnus? You have a look into more or less all the markets because you're traveling a lot, and you are also then doing the analytics together with Vetle here. But what is driving the adoption in the different markets, and what do you think about Finland going forward?
No, I think like it was said here that it's a mix and a variety, all depending on which sector of the industry that you're looking into. So it's hard to call it predict a year in time in terms of what will be the different factors on region A, B, or C, but to call it connect some of the dots that has been mentioned here and summarize it in that kind of way. Taking the keywords of MiCA, the Markets and Crypto Asset Regulation, that is out there. Yes, it is in force right now, but it's in practice not fully enforced yet. Still, we're waiting for clarity from EBA, ESMA, these parties, and also the local FSA in terms of how to interpret it. So what I see from, call it the back end side, and from working hands-on with finance institutions and also the banks on this side, I believe we could expect to see even more publicly offered products like custodian services, i.e. safe storage of crypto assets from these parties, or even financial products, even more on the ETP, ETF sides, and also on, call it the back-end side of infrastructure, like we mentioned, on using stablecoins for so matter. Even parties have indicated that they might even offer some of the top cryptos, and all of these things we have indications that is most likely going to happen closer to the year end of 2025. So I think all depending on the macro perspective of the global markets in general, that naturally can and will affect it. But given everything equal, I believe that next year, in the end, we could see, call it a significant momentum, because when one party first decides to move out, then history has shown that, then others are also moving. So we might see an element of this one that can move everything, then, the whole of this landscape forward. But I think we should also put this one into the context. And this is something that will be exciting to see now on the next broadcast today with Iceland, where we will look also further into the DeFi, the decentralized finance ecosystem, to see how that movement will also evolve. So I think, yes, TradFi, financial institutions and the banking side will be a driving factors in general to build trust, to build, call it the conveniency for the mass adoptions here in general. But I personally also believe that we will see a further expansion of the decentralized finance ecosystem. And from my hands-on experience of knowing the different parties that is down in the basements in Finland and actually doing some amazing work in the coding, I think also Finland can play a key role to that one. So I'm very much looking forward to hopefully have a New Year's Eve and a Christmas Eve at the same time again in covering Finland from the report next year.
Some of us has this new event coming up in half an hour, so we have to close up. But Vetle, are you inspired by this? And have you added some questions that you want to add to the formula maybe next year? Or what are you thinking about the insight and what you still want to know?
There are obviously other questions that would be interesting to know, and maybe even more interesting to ask the industry or financial industry or crypto companies rather than the general public, because you get a lot of you can get some understanding by asking what they are invested in, like which crypto assets and But from experience, it mostly coincides with the market dominance of a given cryptocurrency. So it's not that informational. It has at least been like that in Norway. But understanding like the industrial perspective better would be interesting. And then rounding things up, I just have to say that Finland seems to be in a very, very solid spot. People are owning crypto and are crypto curious. Share that message with politicians and the media and spread awareness on that. And go to the banks and show some revenue calculations of what they are missing out on and how much demand it actually is for this industry, and things are due to develop in a favorable manner in the years to come. The grassroots adoption, at least, is solid and strong.
As I said in the introduction, all these events are also available as recordings on several of the platforms, and I can see that there's a lot of people that has joined the live event during the event. So make sure that if you are missing something, you can look into the recordings. But now in half an hour, we will also welcome Iceland to the first insight of what is happening regarding crypto adoption in Iceland. So I also would like people outside of Iceland maybe to join this event, because it could be interesting to see, will the trends be the same in Iceland or will we see some difference? So I thank you very much to all the presenters and all the panelists, and looking forward to the next event in 1 year's time, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you.